Hi, folks. Nick Tuckert here with the Historical Fencing Guild. Before we get into it, we got to pay some bills. First and foremost, the Historical Fencing Guild is made possible with the love and support of our good friends over at the Independent Creator Directory. That is IndieCD.org, your one-stop shop for the best and the brightest authors, artists, and musicians. We're also made possible by the sales of the Simple Sword, the Fighting Axe, and the Simple Spear, all part of our ongoing series of Western martial arts manuals designed to help you go from having never handled the sword to teaching the art to others. And, of course, made possible by my amazing Patreon patrons, with whom I could not do what I need to do, nor afford what I need to afford to make things happen. I am eternally grateful to the stout hearts who give a little to gain a lot. And I am compiling right now what will be a massive download, upload of resources for my patrons into the resource folder. I'm also going to be purchasing some more books post-Christmas, because I'm not allowed to purchase things for myself within a couple weeks of Christmas. But Off in the Woods, Frog G, Ronald, Riehn, Bladed Thesis, Brian K. Morris, Cindy Koepp, Steve Agosto, Don Dulas, Angelina Vaquera-Linke, Joe and Trilaina Bachman, Richard Asplund Jr., and Kat Rothermel are the amazing souls who every day, every week, I am able to go and just make what I love happen. And I am eternally grateful for it. If you are, I will note, we have a bit of business note to get to, because it should be Frog G, Ronald, Riehn. I know what's wrong. Yeah. So thank you all. Without your support, I couldn't keep doing what I'm doing. And your patience is eternal, and I am deeply blessed to have you. We have some things we need to talk about. Yeah, I said Off in the Woods, Frog G, Ronald, Riehn, Bladed Thesis. Yeah. I don't credit Foxy because she's in the Bladed Thesis household. I could not do what I do without you guys. You make the broadcasts happen and the service happen. I am setting up for a couple new students in the spring, which means I will be spending this winter, the remains of it, doing the upgrades I need to make my gear functional and try to get Mandy hooked up. I don't think she's watching, so I can talk about it. But yeah, I've got some surprises set up for her to try to bring her back into the fold more active, which would be great for everyone involved. This has been a year that has been very trying due to injuries and difficulties on my end. But as we're starting to wrap it up, because let me look, do I have? I have two more streams of this year. Wow. It's gone fast, guys. Let me check the comments real quick. Okay, it's just Bot Rick's doing what Bot Rick's does, which I appreciate. We do have some more things to talk about in what we're doing. Some of it is pleasant, some of it isn't. I am excited by a few things that literally just happened a couple minutes ago, but I'm going to have to, give me a sec. I'm going to have to move a few things over. Hello, Dave. How are you, sir? It's a quiet night. I think everybody is busy. So I am trying to get everything I need where it needs to be. And I'm just having some navigational errors. So, but there we go. I've been looking at options to help us do what we do. Why is this not? Wait a second. Okay. Yep, Guild Prep 2026. That's a part of what we're talking about, and part of what I'm looking to do. There are some bits of equipment I want to remind folks exist, and let you in on a secret project I have that I want to try to do, but it will take funding, and I'm waiting to get some funding restored to me, because in case of I made an order for something very special and it was completely out of stock. They could not find it, and I had to wait for a shop to cancel my order and send me my money back. But things like that can have delays, and I've been running into that. But first thing I want to show you guys is not, I want to start with a bit of the bad news, because the sooner I can knock through that, the better. This happened at a HEMA practice recently. Fortunately, everything I can see, the individual who was fighting was unhurt. But I do want to, a lot of people, we're going to do it like this. There we go. No, that's not what I want. A lot of people aren't taking necessarily what I say seriously, in that I'm very, very funny about safety and about your gear. And what I'm seeing here utterly, utterly, utterly terrifies me, because if you look, there we go, where that blade is sticking out, how lucky this gentleman was. Well, it could be a lady, but I'm going to just hazard a guess, the gentleman. I don't know. I don't recognize that particular clamshell. It may be a homemade one, but that is just earth-shatteringly scary. So when people ask, why have I been getting away from the steel weapons and into the poly weapons so hard when it seems like a downgrade, this is a big part of it. So I just want you guys to be aware that that is happening. Now, I have other things I'm going to show you that are much more chipper and much more exciting. We're going to talk some of the best buys to find in the end of 2025, as well as things I will be pursuing most likely if they can come my way. I'm not sure. There are a couple intriguing items from Purple Heart Armory. I also want to talk books, because I found out, and I do hope Trey gets to find out about this, but one of my favorite masters, Thibault, and I may be mispronouncing his name because I read it. It's a Spanish master, and I am a very big fan of Destrenza. It was a DVD series. Let me look at this real quick. That's precisely not how I wanted that to go. Sorry. We're just having a little bit of technical difficulty here. There we are. But okay, I can bring that back up, I think. Why is that? I'm going to stop the screen. My screen shut down, and it should be the entire screen. So I should be able to do that at Sage. Okay, cool. You'll see it's actually in my window. I did not know about this. Thibault has been accessible for a long time, but primarily in Spanish. Getting an English copy has been nearly impossible. And for $10, that is just obscene. So I am really, really looking forward to reading this and kind of going back to a lot of my roots. We're going through a renaissance of sword manuals right now. And that's part of why I want to get into it. We are actually January of 2026 will make 10 years of the Historical Fencing Guild's manual defense, the Simple Sword, being in publication. So, as part of my plans for next year, since we're talking about guild prep, I'm planning to do a complete overhaul. An edit, I don't want to say a rewrite, but I really want to get down into the nuts and bolts and tweak things, maybe add some more material, and really make a expanded edition. I want to add to it, possibly even folding in materials from the Simple Sword, from the strong, not the Strong Sword. The Strong Sword is sitting unfinished right now, but the Fighting Axe and the Simple Spear. I also need to get the Rapid Rapier out because that's very close to done. So all these should be hitting. So a new version of the Simple Sword should be hitting in 2026. The Rapid Rapier should be hitting in 2026. I need to deep dive the Strong Sword in 2026. I don't know if that's when I will be able to get done. It's sort of been one of my white whales. It's one of those things that haunts me. But I want to be able to really get into that. And when I get into the Strong Sword, I'm going to make a lot of people happy. Because when I hit the Strong Sword, I will be going into two-handed sword techniques. So comparing things like Messers to Katana, because people compare them a lot. And there's a comparison to be made, but the style is going to be very different. So I have to work on all that. I have 2 new aspiring students I have to try to get. Well, let's see. I have several new aspiring students that I may be working with both through the library in 2026 and personally through 2026. especially after some actions are completed. So I need to do that. I did not expect to spend the entire, you know, spring, summer, and fall basically heavily limited due to just simply not being able to get out. The the meds I'm on caused extreme heat sensitivity, coupled with the dislocated ankles. So it made this year was a whirlwind of I just can't. And I hate that. I hate admitting that because I'm all about adaptive. And one of the big parts of training adaptively comes under the line of a man has got to know his limitations. And that means I'm going to need massive adjustments between now and then. Fortunately, this is the time of year where I get to do these things. I do have some modification going on to my driveway area, so I may be able to have some winter sparring, assuming we can keep the ice off the driveway, for limited practices. No more than 3 cars, so that I can keep space for people to spar. If that's the case, I'm really looking forward to it. I didn't expect like I said, I didn't expect a lot that hit. And I do expect a lot of things to possibly hit in 2026 that could be challenging for a lot of people. So I'm going to try to do some things to help. That's part of why I want to upgrade the simple sword and get it a proper full hardcover treatment, because I want something I can donate to libraries that will last longer than the soft covers. And I want to serve my community. So it's very important that the people in the chat and the people watching ask questions, that they reach out to me, and that they make suggestions, because I want to serve you guys. I want to give you my internet community and you my my local community everything you need. So it's vital that I get that out there. Okay? So that's a big part of what we're going to be working on. Now, some of the things ahead for 2026 I am going to attempt, assuming funds hold out. It's going to be an expensive year. I have to replace my mask. And I have to replace a lot of the gear that I wear parallel to that to better fit our needs. And that's going to lead us to a few things. Let me see. It did it again. Okay, that goes there. One. What happened to my card? Oh, I didn't have the money, so I have to empty my cart. There we go. There was that really wonderful sale on pointers, and I'm sorry, 1.3 I.33s, and I couldn't get it. But let's bring this back up and do that. Okay. I am really intrigued by the Wakefield hanger. This looks very, very close to a trainer that I've been looking for a long time. However, it is not perfect, and it is at the price of $60 with the shipping. It starts to really get into the higher end of costs. And then I find myself having to put that much against, hold on. Let's see. The Penty line, which really kind of, it challenges me, because the Penty Messer is something I've thought of for a very long time, and there is actually a measure of flex on a thrust. Not a lot, but if I am accurate, the idea of being able to have a weapon that will flex and allow me my full combat skill set really tempts me. The problem being, of course, do I go with the Messer, or do I just let myself lose my mind a bit and go with the Kriegmesser? Where is the Kriegmesser? See, I love their products, but they're not always, the organization on the page is not always the best. So I have to go through their steel. Because unfortunately, a lot of the high-end messers, the high-end fencing blades are excessively expensive. But see, there is a basic messer. Aha! The V3 Kriegmesser. Now, if I'm going to wield a two-handed sword, something like that really speaks to me. I mean, it really... Oh, it's unavailable. I wonder why. It wasn't unavailable recently. Maybe he's setting up a V4. I may have to ask him why that's unavailable. But finding a quality, flexible sword is going to be something I simply need. And balancing out weight and balancing out price is my challenge, because I could very simply order a cup hilt from a cup hilt rapier with the short blade from South Coast, but that would be a vast sum of money. So I'm forever in the flux, but I am working on it, because PHA has been using a different type of plastic, and they have a it's what they used for those new stilettos, and if they could do things like that combined with that grip, I could possibly, I want to try to talk him into an Italian tactical side sword V2 that would be a bit lighter, a bit faster, and a bit easier to use. Because that is amazing. My problem is and I'm going to set it up. I'm starting to see things that I have uh, 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 I've been looking to acquire for decades in one form or another. And if they can do it and if they're willing, I will be tempted to the dark side of, polypropylene fencing with one of these. Actually, two of these. Because the idea of having weapons we can train from the draw is so intrinsic to something I've been chasing that might become a standard. I wish I had a keyhole grip. So I may be acquiring one of these. I can't get it obviously now because it's too close to Christmas. So I cannot buy myself things that my wife might buy me. I hope. Or my friends, who knows? But afterwards, if I don't, I will have to acquire at least one. Because that's far closer to how I actually fight than a lot of the gear that I'm fighting with. But I want to put it up to you, especially Houston, Texas Dave. What do you want to see me train with? I'm in between now and the start of the year. I'm going to be basically putting out an assignment for people to tell me, my patrons, the folks who aren't patrons but they're on the public historical fencing guild group, the private historical fencing guild group. I have to get from them what they want, what will serve them best in the coming year. And from that, I need what you guys want. What you guys want or need to see to make your personal journey into martial arts, especially Western martial arts, a bit more well, didn't realize it had sound, but that's flex. That is flex, and that looks like a reasonable handle. So that may be a major item I run. Now I caught a bit of the sound, but I'm totally fine running it. I'm still looking for the granddaddy sword, but I'm going to come back. Give me just 1 second. I need to grab something. I'm not going far. I just forgot to grab something. Okay. I'm here. The other plans for this winter, like I said, this is what was dubbed the Italian Tactical Side Sword Trainer. I adore this sword. However, it could be improved as the structures are a little clunky. I actually probably need a new rubber band at this point. But this is my baby. This is the trainer that I designed. I requested. It's a custom rig. It has been very useful for a very long time. It's just slightly big for my hands, even with the gloves, but it has the keyhole grip and this wonderful knuckle duster. So this is one of my favorites. I may actually commission. If I can't get a dishing block, I may commission somebody to make me a dished guard. But it still runs the problem of I can't thrust with it. So one of the great secret sins of everyone's favorite rapierist, if you look at my natural fighting style, it's a lot closer to certain types of broadsword. I like a rapier grip, but I like a shorter, stouter blade that gives me better leverage in the bind. That's where this beautiful piece comes into being. But a V2 of this might just be in order. And if that's something you guys want me to pursue, it will cost me some money to get made. Oh, absolutely, Theodore. Hello. Basically, the point where broadswords and backswords start to overlap is one of my happy places. I quite like them. A basket hilted, a Scottish basket hilt is a thing of great joy. Now, I am very big personally into hand protection. So while I don't have my primary Spanish rapier, no, this was my saber for a long time, and it is still quite valid. It's just rigged up with the saber guard to keep simple. But this blade length is very nice. And for me, it's more about the style in which one wields it. Rather, is that pinning or just marking? Well, we can fix that. Versus the weapon itself. Good hand protection, a good hybrided style that matches how you move. Now, since you're new, you don't know my favorite sword of all time that I own. This is a Toledo, essentially wall hanger. It was gifted to me by a gentleman by the name of John Miner. But it's got about a 24-inch blade. This wonderful, I can get a double finger keyhole in here. And it gives me, I can fight it in a lot of styles very comfortably. So my problem as an individual is I have spent, 25 years heavily teaching. And for me to teach, I truly love working with people of other disciplines. So as long as we have reasonably equivalent gear and we can agree on conventions, I can do a lot of things that that I learned from. So my personal style is a little different than the style I tend to teach. Part of that is just because I've been at it so long, and part of it is I say I'm playing patty cake with people because I like to take away the dogma. Oh, okay, yes. Modernist, yes. This, let me bring that back. Sorry. This, if you're referring to this is based on a 1783 Carlos the Fourth, I believe, Spanish Bilbo, just like Mr. Baggins, named for the town. It has a few other names, but because of the Lord of the Rings thing, when people say Bilbo sword, one second, come here, you. They, that must have been just off camera because I pulled it off. They think Sting, which is unironically one of my favorite weapons ever made up for training. It's very comfortable. But yes, this is from Toledo, Spain. Let me see if I can get the lighting so you can see it. And so, yes, I actually have a brace of these. I believe the hilt is slightly improperly aligned because I think this piece is supposed to rest on the quillion, but the hand protection is superb. It combines a cup hilt rapier with a saber style guard. I really need to dig out my personal rapier and bring that back on screen. But I'd have to dig in my closet because I moved it because I was cleaning and I didn't want it damaged. So it's kind of protected right now. But I fought with, and I still could fight with it. I might have to change the blade out again. But with a 34-inch rapier, that cup hilt triple knuckle duster that was again made by John Miner, same man who gave me this. I'm rather thinking that I might just try to dish my own, because if I can make my own riggings, so if I can make the part that if I were to unscrew it is the cross guard and the integrated ricasso, which, I mean, it's not hard to see, but let me get there. It's welded. Now, I have a small welder. I want to learn to weld to make items like this. And then what I will need for this is called a dishing block. Now, I might be able to make one out of a very stout log. And if I can, see, if I can do that, I can make the riggings, and then I could go to a company like Zen Warrior Armory, because I've dealt with them in the past and I quite like them, and just order the blades, as I have in the past, and make my own riggings for that. I've done it several times in different styles. The simplest way for me to do this would be to try to hammer out something out of brass. So maybe brass kick plate might be sturdy enough. I'm going to have to experiment. But I've also done a lot of switching to the polypropylene because if you have several $100s to throw at armor, it is very easy to get in this game. My thing is, I'm always here to support the less economically inclined, you know. Hey, Don, glad to see you in the chat. So it's like I am the guy who did the 25-cent sword trainer. And I think I might do an updated version of that video. It's been a while. Because, again, things are getting tight. People want to learn. I've taught with everything from handmade wooden wasters to, modified dowel rod rigs with rattan. I've done, I've trained with rattan, steel rigs, rapiers, foils, sabers. And like I said, I've really gotten into the polypropylene and the the polypropylene and the HDPE or UHDPE. So you have things, again, like this, which could qualify as a backsword. A lot of times, okay, you see, I'm quite new to HEMA in general. Only been practicing maybe 2 or 3 months, and most of that has been on the backsword and sidesword. Love sidesword, obviously. We'll be on rapiers next month, so preparing. Excellent. There are wonderful resources out there for rapier. If you were looking for manuals, aside, of course, shameless plug, about 10 years ago, I wrote The Simple Sword, and it is a full walkthrough on a basic style that is hybrided from lots of different manuals, and you will find I kept everything simple by doing it with stick figures to make it easy and approachable. It's a little pricey because Amazon Print Services, I mistakenly used color and it jacked up the price. I'm probably going to do a new version of this next year that will be hardbound, but probably in black and white, so I can adjust the color. But I talk about the basics of sword fighting from a rapierist perspective, because I spent 12 years in the SCA as a fencer, specializing in teaching new people. I left that organization because I was working with people outside the SCA, and I was basically given a stop training people outside the SCA or we're going to pull your card in the SCA. And I walked because I want easy access to gear and to okay. 350 Newton long gambeson should be fine. I've been getting, okay. I would, okay. This is, from an individual who's taken a lot of damage on the field. I would make sure you have a plastron, which my plastron's in the living room, but a plastic chest protector on under that, bare minimum. I'd also advise pads and joint protection, elbows, shoulders, knees, if you can. Bracers are easy to build. Depending on the rules of your group, you will always need neck protection, but I recommend a gorget. This is one that I modified that was made for me by my old swordmaster, a gentleman by the name of Dennis Yakus, Aidan McDougall in the SCA, that actually has reached, a lot of my gear has reached the point of I need to modify and replace it. It's just getting there. But a gorget like this goes around. Here we go. And it's very important because having neck protection, that is, there we go. The holes aren't quite right on this. It's a little tight, but we can go. And then it would be tucked. Normally, my lovely wife is the one, putting the collar on me, so to speak. Laugh all you want, but we'll tuck the flaps. The reason a gorget like this is important is not only does it protect your throat from impact, right? because my Adam's apple, my throat is protected. I think it's on camera, right? Your cervical vertebrae are protected. Not cervical. Yeah, anyway, the top 7 are protected from those wraparound shots. Now, many times you will go and you'll see the bib style or the ones with the elastic in the back. The other things these do, you'll notice my head motion is rather limited, even if I'm not, I don't have padding under this right now other than the integrated padding. But that's a good thing. It is literally a neck brace. So that if you take a hard shot, somebody really, Pez dispensers your head, the mask right off your head. This is going to keep your neck from over actuating. Now, many groups do not need plates. I believe in being over armored a bit. So these are all, again, things I custom modified on a budget. These are, wow, my rivets were ugly back in the day, although it's been a while since I've done riveting. These are galvanized plates that I got from Menards, and I cut and shaped. Did I use a nibbler? I think I used my nibbler on that. But you could use even a hacksaw on it if you have to get the shape, and then use a Dremel tool or a file and sit and file it. And then I used copper rivets that I didn't rivet as well as I should have, but they've held for 20 plus years, so I really can't complain. And these were but they join boards together who are butted together. They have spikes. So I cut the parts that spike in off, and again, I riveted them. This is just patina from decades of use. I have in my garage a set of mild steel sabatons, which have the integrated cup. So it's a bracer that basically comes around and cups your elbow. You can't fully extend in it, but it keeps everything tight and safe, which, depending on how you're fighting, you may not really want overextension. But I'm using that to make, I'm going to use that as a sort of, I'm going to attach it to a board, to a support, to be able to lay hot HDP. So I could buy the plastic sheeting like they use in armor, heat it up, and then melt and shape it to make nice bracers. I can also do that with leather, but right now leather's expensive and harder to get for me than HDPE. And if you're doing that sort of thing, whenever you're working with plastics, you want to wear a face mask, goggles, and you want lots of ventilation whenever you're messing with any of that. You don't have to do it the craft way, but that I find is the cheapest. And for me, I find armoring to be very rewarding. And it's not that expensive to get into some basic stuff. You'll need a little anvil like this, which will run you 10 to 20 bucks. This is a little jeweler's anvil. You can get them from like Tandy's Leather, or of course, Amazon has everything. Mine is covered in all sorts of junk because I use the heck out of it. And I have a rivet kit. I just had it. Where did my rivet kit go? If you're around any length of time, you'll find I'm something of an absent-minded professor. I know what I'm talking about, but it will be done in a bizarre and clunky way. But copper rivets are your friend. You can get a kit like this. I want to say it only cost me like $15 on Amazon. Hello, Joseph S. Clark. I'm glad you like the diamonds. And this is a rivet setter, which is a device that will allow you to set it over the rivet. The rivet, you have the rivet and the burr. So I'll pull one of these out. Are any of these loose? No. Okay. I can't do a full demo because I'm not currently riveting something. I know this is riveting content, but this is like a basic skill for armoring. And again, I don't know what your finances are. I'm going to call you Theodore. I'll probably say Theo because I don't have time for a lot of things. But you take this little copper burr. My inside, this is the copper rivet. And then you take a burr. And a burr, oh, this one's, oh, these are all, shoot, I pulled this from the wrong pack. Yeah, that's fine. I just wish I hadn't closed it. I have nerve damage, so sometimes my hands don't work like they should. Let me get there. I wasn't planning to do an armoring discussion, so I'm only able to access what I have on hand. But you have two pieces of leather, you stack them. Maybe you put a spacer in between them, depending on what you're doing. You put this little guy, which looks like a washer, it's called a burr, on there, and then you set it. And you set it by taking, I'm holding two burrs right now. Sorry. And please like and subscribe to this so you don't miss. I do a live stream just about every Friday at roughly 8 o'clock. I'm occasionally a couple minutes late, but that's just because I have to deal with my family. And then you take this, well, the hole that lines up, and then you give it a good smack with your hammer. And then you strike the top of the exposed part of the rivet. You may have to trim it down. You may have to take cutters and cut the excess off. But then you strike the top and it mushrooms out and it flattens. Because you can do that with, ooh, I bumped my mouse over here, so we have some shenanigans going on. We'll hide that. But, and we'll spend that out. You mushroom it out, and I can show you again, ugly. These are my earliest rivets. Please be merciful. I made a lot of prettier stuff for other people, but I have a bad habit of not remembering to make stuff for me or replace my own gear, which has led me to being currently kind of negated on a lot of my gear. But bring this guy back. And these aren't really the best rivets, but let me see if I can get it to, you can see how it's been, okay, here we go. You can see a better rivet right here, right here's almost a good rivet, where it's flat. Now these are different type up here. These are tubular rivets the original designer used, and they are nowhere near as strong, but they're a whole lot cheaper to get. So you balance it out. I over engineer things because I live like a hobbit, but I build like a dwarf. You know, process that how you do. And so that's kind of a complete crash course in getting an idea of some of the skills that can be useful for armoring. I recently acquired a new overhead boom, so I will finally be able to do the armoring technique, the riveting videos and things from the angle I want to give you guys better information. So that's coming up next year. I'm not planning anything new. There's a sword pommel. Of course, I've got sword pommel laying around. This should surprise no one. But absolutely, you wear your cup, obviously. You want a chest placed, and I will tell you why. I was an SCA fencer, and at one point, I took a shot where the tip of a rapier. So let me get this guy out so I can. What happened was it was a double lunge. I broke off, but I missed the parry to catch his. I didn't want to skewer him, and the tip, which this is beat up. I need to redo the electric tape, but this is a rubber tip with a steel spacer behind it in front of the blade. This is important, and I will show you exactly why this is important. Actually, I can really show you why this is important. Give me just a second. Because if you weren't here earlier, this is a picture I found on one of the HEMA sites. And we'll just bring that up. There we go. If you are attentive, you will see it has gone right through his leather protective gear and out the side. Because there is no tip. That is, some groups are fighting with weapons that way. I cannot ever condone or agree with that. I don't want to see people hurt. And there's a rash of, exactly. Incredibly lucky. And that's why, and this is a beat-up ancient example, because I'm a beat-up ancient swordmaster. Normally I'm wearing Hawaiian shirts. You got me on an odd day. But this keeps that from happening. It saved my life because I took a shot that was hard enough. It caught, when I thought, into my sternum, got between the ribs in my sternum and ripped 5 of my ribs, detached them from the sternum, cracking 3 of them because it pulled the sternum away here. And I had to have them, let's see, no, it was on this side. Sorry, I had to think about how it was because it was a hit that hit here. I had to feel the bump where the bone didn't quite heal right. But tore them from the side. And one of them was pointed at my lung. And I didn't even realize it. I kept fighting. I just I'm winded, but why? Then I went to help when my mother-in-law the day after had fallen over. I went to crank a Hoyer lift to help her up. No, that's the irony. Externally, not much of a scar. Internally, my ribs were all cracked and gnarled. But they popped back into place when they laid me down to do the x-ray instead of going in and puncturing my lung. So I'm a very lucky guy in that aspect. But wear chest plates. An inexpensive plastron is worth it. There will always be people who are very about minimal armor. And the armor you fight in should match the weapon you're fighting with. All it did is if you could tangibly feel it, the bones are not happy. There's calcium buildup and stuff. It's fine. I'm a wreck. Internal injuries. Oh, I sound like an old kung fu master. But I had a Montante fighter actually hit hard enough. It moved my elbow protection and it chipped the end of my elbow off, my elbow bone. I didn't know that. And I learned to drive stick with a broken elbow. By the time I went to the doctors and talked about it, they're like, it's already fused. Give it a few more weeks, put it in a sling, you'll be fine. But I've taken a lot of damage doing what I do. I'm not a normal trainer. I have specialized in working with women, working with people with physical limitations and mental trauma. A lot of the people I have worked with are suicide survivors. A lot of the people I work with are or have been sexual assault survivors. Again, people with physical limitations. The gentleman who taught me, or the person I consider my first sword master, despite our differences, he had very, very powerful rheumatoid arthritis and very limited movements that he could do. And he was still able to be a surprisingly effective swordsman. I've worked with people in the SCA. I've worked with people who do FIE fencing, so like collegiate and Olympic ranked fencers. But, oh yes, I've always been interested in sword fighting. And I got into historical sword fighting, again, through the SCA, heavily. I was a fencer, a light fighter in the Middle Kingdom, because I went through a lot of trauma in my youth, and I needed a place to put the anger and to learn to. I had to get my own personal power back, and I needed to learn to harness and control the anger instead of letting the anger of what I'd experienced control me. And I literally have built my life. Everything I have good in my life can be traced back to, as an adult anyway, to learning to sword fight and training people and working with folks. I met my wife that way when I met her when I was 19, and I married her at 22, and we've been married 23 years thus far. But we were engaged very shortly after we became friends, so had 2 years of engagement. The vast majority of friends I met through or brought into sword fighting. I get to do programs at libraries. And when things are up and running and my health allows, unfortunately. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, we're doing well. I have a son. He's special needs. That's why I don't work outside the house, because my employment was working with special needs people, either in medical settings or in educational settings. That was my primary employment. And it made more sense for me to stay home and help my son. So I'm a bit of a shut-in these days. It's just part of doing what I do. But a lot of good has come out of it. And I'm really proud, because I've been able to help people who wouldn't have otherwise been able to get teaching. My first instructor before my first sword master, I call him my instructor because he doesn't deserve the title of sword master, ironically is the reason I got into this style, because after I'd been working with him for a while, we were on campus and he couldn't choose who he trained. He couldn't refuse people. So he took the people who had potential. He said, Nick, do what you can with the rest of them. And that was primarily women, and people with physical limitations, or people who were rather on the short side. And I got very good at training non-standard students. I read some wonderful books on working with female students and training with females. Toby Beck has an amazing book called The Armored Rose. I think anyone who trains women needs to read it and understand it, because it talks about the biomechanical differences of we'll say, biologically presenting women, of their skeletal and tendon structures. It changes how they move, their center of balance, how they fight. Armoring women's knees actually is very different because they move differently than men's knees. So I've worked with a lot of that, but I found very early on, and especially after the debacle I had with the society, I prefer to be in the background, if that makes sense. It gives me the freedom so that when I'm active, I can work with people who are in AmpGuard one time, and people who are unofficially training in the SCA the next, and HEMA guys after that. And because the Historical Fencing Guild was founded to serve originally as a Rosetta Stone, because I believe the importance of stress testing your fighting and cross training. So Eastern martial artists, Western martial artists, sport fighters, people who come from military backgrounds, we would play, and through that we would learn. And genuinely, that is quite interesting. I'm based in the UK, so I'm definitely going to look at similar special needs organizations. I'll gladly donate to you when able to your cause. I greatly appreciate it. I do have a Patreon. Because of what I do, and being so geared to providing free service as much as I can, there aren't a lot of Patreon exclusives, because I put everything out here. My books are all basically as cheap as Amazon will let me, because I added color in my formatting of the original Simple Sword. It's more expensive than I like, but I've done smaller edition books of the Fighting Axe and the Simple Spear to ease people in, and talk about other things. And those I can have been done at much lower cost, very survey pieces. Again, if you are doing training, and you can get these through Amazon or wherever. If you're working with women, Toby Beck's The Armored Rose. My favorite master's function that I have read thus far is The Rapier or the Soleil by Nicola Gigante. I'm a big Gigante fan. I find his style to be very practical, and it has what I consider a moderate level of aggression. It's also more adaptable in my opinion, for people who aren't necessarily as tall or as strong as some of the others. When I am not the biggest into longsword, I have done some of that. I have my two-handed sword work has been forever scarred by my dabblings in Chinese swordsmanship. I'm not Chinese, Japanese swordsmanship. So I tend to, it's like I sheath swords like a Japanese fighter. It's just ingrained in me. And because of the people I trained with. So I am rather fond of katana work. Because I have a set of speech impediments, and I have a set of visual. I'm mildly dyslexic. A few other things are going on. I'm not big on vocabulary. And when I wrote The Simple Sword, for example, I read through every manual I could find, even if I had to have like the English to Spanish or the English to Italian book and do translating myself. And I've noticed that most people argue about, well, so and so, Capo Ferro says fight like this. Well, Fiore says fight like this. When I was writing my book and when I designed my style, it was built on looking at what the masters agreed on. So if almost all of them agreed when you were starting out and you shouldn't cross your legs because that can throw your balance off, we don't cross legs because that can throw the balance off. Most of them agree, for example, that a rapier, hold on, the blade should be, now this is obviously not a rapier, this is a, again, closer to a broadsword or a side sword, but the length of a rapier blade should go from your outstretched 2 fingers to the center of your chest, so half your wingspan. Usually it's half your height, but I work with people. It's like one of my students has a variety of dwarfism, so her reach is not equal proportionately to half her height. So we had to adjust things. So that's what I am usually about. I stream here pretty much. Live streams on Fridays from 8 o'clock Eastern to 9 o'clock Eastern usually. So I usually go about an hour unless I'm deep in conversation like I've had the pleasure to be with you. I stream on the other channel that I have, the Nicholas Tockert channel on YouTube, 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, starting at 10 o'clock. On Wednesday, it is usually a multi-hour show because I do art. I also have a sporadic program, Nick Knows Nerf, where I talk about Nerf blasters. I'm a man of many interests and talents, so I'm kind of across the board. You can find me here. You can find all my broadcasts on both Twitch and Kick. I believe I have the links in the description. If not, I will be adding that shortly. I'm new to both those networks. Beyond that, it is getting about the time I need to close up the show because I have some other things that need to be done tonight. I want to thank the chat, especially Theodore. You've been incredible. I want to thank all the people. Let's see, where am I being watched from? Okay, so the person on NickT_artist and Twitch, and the folks who are watching me through the Independent Creator Directory, which is an organization I'm a proud member of. Got a lot of folks over there, and of course, someone who found me on my own channel. Please like and share wherever you are, and please keep showing up. I love to be of service to the community, and I will see you all very soon. So, guys, keep your do your drills. Keep your guard up. Keep your eyes open. Be kind to yourself and each other. And as always, thank you for supporting your local swordmaster. I will be back next week for more of this. And I really need to do a condensed video of my favorite trainers, my favorite books, and my favorite gear resources very soon. Till then, guys, have a lovely night. Toodles.